welcome. Sunday morning, church. Let's pass the plate around there and get that over with right away. Thank you for sitting in the splatter seats. I appreciate that. The vote of confidence, I love that. Yeah.
Number one fan.
Yeah, the tarps underneath the seats there. All right, well, I'm Paul Niemeyer, and thank you very much for coming here. If you didn't, if you thought you were going to see somebody else, well, stick around anyway. So I'm probably best known for being the Mortal Kombat artist. I'll talk a little bit about that too, but actually I really want to talk about the early days in Valley Midway when I first started working there, and that would have been from 82 to 84. And it was such a golden age. It was just the best. It was the best job I ever had. As it turned out, it was my last job I ever had too. When I was one of the first victims of the video game crash of 1983. And interestingly enough, last weekend I did a show with Philo Barnhart, who it turned out was the artist on Dragon Slayer and had worked for Don Bluth Studios at the time. And I said, wow, your game is responsible for me losing my job. That's awesome. So the longer we talked, the more we realized that our careers had kind of like coincided or collided or whatever you want to call it on a couple of different occasions. He's probably best known for doing all the work on Little Mermaid, and he was the head of animation at Disney for a long time. And as it turns out, I did all the marketing stuff at an ad agency for Little Mermaid, so I ended up drawing all of his characters umpteen times too. So just fun how connect with everybody and see all these things happening and that we were working simultaneously on a lot of different things, and that happened at Valley Midway all the time. Now that I'm doing these shows, I find myself appearing with Brian Colin quite a bit, probably going from Rampage and a number of other games, but it turns out that he had done most of the programming on almost all the games that I'd worked on, but I never knew that 40 years ago back in the day. Nobody did. They kept us as far apart as possible. He was hired about a week after I was in 82. And I remember doing a panel with him in Florida, and we had the whole Midway crew. And we were talking about how incredibly cheap they were, just beyond your wildest imagination. They were just so cheap with the talent, not with themselves. The executives paid themselves quite handsomely. As they drove up in their Porsches and the Mercedes and Bentleys and $3,000 suits. So we had this panel, and I'm sitting at, you can tell I don't have much respect for management. Anyway, it's going to get worse, so buckle in. Anyway, I remember they asked us, how would we like to work at Valley? And I said, well, it was great working there. It was amazing working there. It was the most amazing group that you could ever assemble, the dream team that you're working with, but the pay sucked, okay? I got hired at 19.5. Even in 1982, that was just some sucky money. It was pretty terrible. And so I remember at this panel, I said, 19.5. And Brian leaned forward and went, are you kidding me? And I thought he meant, okay, first of all, we all assumed Brian was the wunderkind. That anything he did, you bet, Brian, he's the guy. We all thought that. I don't know why we did it, but we just did. So when he said that, I thought he was like shocked at how low the number was. No. He was shocked because they hired him at 14.5. Can you believe? Unbelievable. They were the worst. The worst. And if you talk to any game designer, anybody had anything to do with any games, it's not just Bally, it's all the game companies. They were just the worst. So after I lost my gig at Valley, oh, I'm sorry, I was laid off.
What year was that?
What?
What year?
84 is when I actually got the boot. March 23rd, my mom's birthday. I remember out the door I went. And actually the reason I hung on that long all the way into March was because I was working on a game called Midnight Marauders. Does anybody know? Do you know anything about it? I think only like 200 or 300 were made. It was so glitchy, it was terrible. It was Bally's kind of a last gasp attempt to reincarnate the shooting gallery kind of a game. Only we did it with lasers, and we came up with space aliens because they were easy to shoot. Who cares, right? You can destroy all the space aliens you want. And if you're making robots, that's even better yet. All right. So that was kind of the logic, and that's kind of how the character came to be. Was first it was space aliens, and then they said, well, can we make them robot aliens so that you don't. There's like no remorse in shooting as many of them as you wanted to. I can't believe they actually had that conversation at one point or another, but the results of the conversation were kind of like dictated to me. Here's what we discussed and decided. Here's what you'll be doing. So anyway, Paul Ferris, my boss, art god, came to my desk and had this shooting game that he wanted, and it was all me. It was like, all my artwork on the entire game. So and we all knew that we were all going to lose our jobs because it was obvious. Every day in the factory there'd be like 50 people gone. Every Friday was Black Friday. We nicknamed it Black Friday. Kind of laughed about it, and it was just a matter of time before that came here to the office. And sure enough, it did. And I was low man on the totem pole, so I was the first one to go. So what I didn't know is that my head was on the block back in November of '83, but my boss came forth and gave me this assignment to do Midnight Marauders. So here I am thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to save my job, right? I'm going to do such a kick-ass job on this. They cannot possibly want to fire the likes of moi, right? Right? Yeah, okay. So I did. I poured myself into that game. Boy, did I ever. It actually required a lunar surface that had to be molded. And believe it or not, I've got a degree in ceramic design and engineering. Not that it matters a frickin' nor has anybody ever asked in the 40-odd years I've had it. Not once did anybody say, hey, how's the ceramics degree going for you? Anyway, I tried to put it to use there. And so I made it out of stoneware, and I punched a bunch of little holes in it so that we could get use it for vacuum form. And I thought, I am the shit, man. I'm your one-stop shop with all of this. So I got all this done, and I poured myself into it. I had all this great artwork on it, and I finished it up. And they said, "There's the door." Oh, well, no, you don't understand. I'm saving my job. No, you don't understand. There's the door. Wow. And I never saw the game in production until about a year ago. Honestly, yeah. I was in, I don't know if anybody knows who Doc Mack is. He owns Galloping Ghost, Galloping Ghost Arcade in Brookfield, Illinois. Has about 750 games on the floor, just an incredible. He's probably the biggest advocate of retro gaming there is. He's the reason I'm sitting here in front of you.
They recently had 1,000 cabinets.
What's that?
They recently had 1,000 cabinets. They keep expanding and expanding and expanding.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah. So actually, I think it was a couple years ago. We had done a panel. I had done a panel with him, and we were talking about Midnight Marauders, and I pulled out some sketches of stuff, and I had a color comp I had done of a headliner, like a marquee, and the marquee I had done had the word midnight like in drippy blood floating like in like zero gravity, right? And they went, no way, you can't have blood splatter and all that. It was another 10 years before Mortal Kombat. I have to, oh yeah, all the blood you could splatter all you want to first. But back then, that was not. So anyway, I pulled that out, and it hit a note with Doc. He went, wait a minute, Midnight Marauders? He goes, there's only like 200 of those made. And then I said, yeah, I've never seen one, I've never played it, I know nothing, who knows how it ended up. And he went and found one. It took him about 2 years, but he found it. He brought it back, and unbelievable. So he invited me down. We had like a big old grand unveiling, and he did his Monday reveal, and it was Midnight Marauders. And I played it for the very first time, and I kicked its ass. I couldn't believe it. Okay, famously, most artists suck at the games that they did. I love Satan's Hollow. I suck at Satan's Hollow, even though it's Galaga, right? It's just Galaga with demons and whatever, instead of space bugs, whatever the hell those things are. I don't know. And it doesn't matter because I suck at Galaga too, so there really was no concern. So anyway, I couldn't believe it. I just was just killing it. I could do no wrong with this game. So it was literally the one and only time I've ever played it. And it was about, 42 years after the fact. It was pretty crazy, finally came around, And so I didn't obviously save my job by doing such a kick-ass job on it, or what I thought was a kick-ass job on it anyway. And I carried that around with me for a long, long time, about 30-odd years. And one time my wife and I were at a wedding. And who's at the wedding too from the other side of the family? Paul Ferris, my old boss. So I saddled up to him at the bar, and we're hoisting a couple and talking about the old days, and finally I get around to asking, what was up with Midnight Marauders? I thought for sure I was saving my job. I busted my ass on that. I poured my heart and soul into that. No more than I got done with it, out the door it went. I never even saw it. I said, I can't believe I didn't save my job. And he's just laughing. Oh my God, you couldn't have been more wrong about that. I went, what? He goes, they wanted to fire you in November. And I told them, I just gave him a game. And he's not going anywhere until he finishes that game. And you wait until the very moment he's done before you fire him. So the very moment I was done, they fired me. And I thought it was because of the game, and it wasn't the other way around. It was pretty funny. But so even though it took about 37 years for that to come around, I'm glad it did come around. So anyway, let's go back. I'm kind of doing everything in reverse. I'm going to talk about the old days at Ballet. That was such a great place to work. When I first got hired, well, let me tell you about how that happened too. I really wasn't looking for a job. I was working at a little sign shop on the southwest side of Chicago, and probably way too contented. And that's the worst thing you can get in the graphic arts business is contented in a job, because that'll be the end of you, but that's for sure. And I was about at that point, and it's usually 2 years. It's funny. I mean, even in the ad agencies, if you're at an ad agency and you're on the same account and you've been on it for more than 2 years, they start looking at you like you're some kind of leper, okay? Because there's no way you could possibly have a fresh idea after 2 years of pumping out stuff for Special K or Snickers or whatever the hell it is you're pumping it out for. That's, you've got about 2 years in you, and that's it. And that's where I was. I was about 2 years in the sign company, and I pretty much learned everything I could learn and done everything I could do. And a buddy of mine called up and he said, dude, I saw your dream job in the newspaper. And I went, what? He was, yeah, Valley Midway. Remember, all you can do is talk about being a pinball artist? Dude, there it is. Oh my God, couldn't believe it. So I wrote down the number, check this out. An hour later, another friend, didn't know the first guy, called me, exact same conversation. dude, I saw your dream job in the paper. Okay, universe, I get it. I went down, okay, got the job. It took 3 interviews to get the job. And the very first one was really deceiving because, first of all, I got the gig, I got the appointment to come and show my portfolio. And it was about a week and a half down the way, so I was like super excited because I had about a dozen paintings in a general state of not doneness, okay? So I really became dedicated just finishing everything. And I mean, I'd get home from work and I would just like, in my mind, I was started. Now I'm really starting work. And I'd get home and I'd work till 2 or 3 in the morning every night. You know, working on these paintings, getting them done. I'm making the best damn portfolio you've ever seen, you know. And so the day came, and I mean, I'm like, it's an exercise in sleep deprivation at this point, but I didn't care. I wanted this job so bad I could taste it. So I went in there, and the guy I was meeting with was Rich Scafidi, who turned out to be, later on, he was my immediate boss. So I'm introduced to him, he's very soft-spoken, large man, big, bushy, black beard, and boy, you can't get 2 words out of him. So I got in there, and there's a big stack of portfolios, another bunch, you know, leaning against the desk, and I'm thinking, oh crap! Look at this, they're piling up already. Oh my God! So I brought mine in, and he flops it in front of him, and opens it up, and just like this fast. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And then does, okay, thanks. We're done? That's it? Oh, F. And I remember, I went to go grab it, and he goes, oh, no, leave it. And I was like, oh, okay, go. There's a glimmer of hope. Thank you. You know? So I left, and I'm thinking, what happened? Crap. Oh, and really, for like 2 days, you know, I just walked in this funk, thinking, oh my God, all those nights staying up till 3 in the morning making these paintings just to get this thing. Got a phone call. Turns out that all Rich was there to do was to pretty much screen portfolios. When they saw a portfolio they wanted to look closer at, mine, they put it off to the side and called me in later so that we can look at it with much more detail. So once again, you know, all my little, you know, preconceived conclusions were wrong. I made a lot of wrong decisions, most of them actually, but that's how you learn, right? Yeah, who wants to make right decisions all the time? You don't learn anything from that. Okay, so couple of interviews later, every time I did an interview, there were more people in the room. And the last time I did it, there were about a dozen people in the room, so I thought that was a good sign. And it turns out my boss, Paul Ferris, was the boss of the whole art department, was at the end of the table and was kind of like just looking off in the distance. And I didn't know who he was, and he had a nice suit on, so I thought, management. And turned out, no, he wasn't management, just had a nice suit, that's all. And I asked him later, and I said, you know, the whole time we were talking, you were like looking off in the distance. And he goes, yeah, I'm just thinking about jobs I wanted you to do. I was like, oh, okay, again, you know, me looking at him going, oh, he's not even paying attention. Oh, no, you're wrong again. So, got the job, so excited, can't believe it, my life's turned around, you know, like just nuts. I was there like 2 days, and I'm working on Tron. Tron! What the hell? Oh my God! 2 days, you know, like a week earlier, I remember I was working on Bob's Pet Supplies in Midlothian, Illinois. And now I'm working on Tron. And it blew my mind. And I was 24 years old, you know, and I just had to keep pinching myself. Man, this is my dream job. And then they told us they were bringing over all the artists from Bali. all the pinball guys, and they're making one big, huge art department right there. And I couldn't believe how cool that was. This is gonna be amazing. And then a nanosecond later I went, oh crap. You gotta compete with the art gods. Yeah. They all had 7 years experience. I had about 7 minutes. Yeah. So I realized right away I gotta hang with the big boys here. And that means I gotta bump up my game in a huge way. I remember going home every night. And again, you know, like, here's where the day really starts. And I would just sketch figures, just get my chops up. And what really nailed it, what really burned that thought home was about maybe 4 or 5 months into my tenure there. They fired 2 guys because they weren't cutting it. So, you know, that left a real big impression on me. Man, I started to draw. And the other thing too is when I was doing all this stuff at night, I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was creating a Mord file, what we call a Mord file. And that is basically just a bunch of images that definitely don't have any congruent necessity at this point in time, but you know, we can always pull them out and use it for stuff, i.e. aliens, robots, spaceships, interesting craft, guns, future guns, and you name it, you get the idea, you know, all the stuff that is the stuff of video games and all that other, you know, genre. You just make a ton of those drawings and put them in a file. Luckily, that came in very handy, because even though Bally had gone out of their way to collect like the dream team of artists, okay? And first of all, they brought all the pinball guys over, and they were just phenomenal talents. You know, Margaret Hudson and Doug Watson, Pat McMahon, Tony Ramone, you know, Greg Ferris. These guys are the art gods. They were literally just art gods. I worship the ground they walked on. I played Doug's game when I was in college, okay? And now I'm in the next cubicle from him. That was blowing my mind. And I'm like, oh my God, and I'm only 24 and I'm doing this, look at this. You know, but again, and they're doing it for like 7 years, and I got all that experience, and I should really be paying attention to what's going on around me here. So I worked really hard, and I volunteered for everything because I wanted to be seen. I was so ambitious. I needed a bump up, and it came in a weird way. In that, like I said, they built the dream team, and they did the same thing with the programming department. They built a dream team of programmers. And then they took great wads of money and went to Japan and threw it at games. Because in the back of their minds, they always thought their success was because of Pac-Man and Space Invaders. And you couldn't shed that no matter what happened at that place. In fact, we nicknamed the new building they built, the house that Pac built, because that's where their heads were at. It didn't matter what we did or what we were designing, and by the way, we were cranking out games left and right, which is pretty much what caused the crash of '83, is that we couldn't put them out fast enough, and all of the arcade owners, you know, at the time, they had to buy those games. That was the deal. You didn't rent them or lease them or anything. You actually had to physically buy the game. And then you had another game that would come out a week and a half later to replace that one, and they hadn't even made the money to pay for the first one, and that was the problem. And we couldn't crank out the games fast enough. I mean, I worked at Bally Midway for about 2 years, and I was responsible for 7 games myself, just me. And everybody was working on that level. And it caused a crash. Well, how long do you do that before it just falls apart? You know, yeah. So anyway, getting back to the going to Japan to buy games. That was their whole thing. They would go and buy literally any game that they came across. They bought some real clunkers. Boy, some terrible, terrible, terrible games. And they would come back, and what they needed is what they'd have to have, like some sort of a graphic. They'd have to have a header or something, and they'd go, a lot of times, you just get a message that say, there's a game out on the loading dock. And you would take your universal tool. By the way, everybody at Valley Midway was issued a universal tool. And if you lost it, it was $20 to replace. And it had like every pretty much nib that you could need to take apart a video game in one little thing. So for us to take the headers off, you just took your little tool and, 4 screws on the side, things slipped right out, there you go. So I'd say, yep, it's out on the loading dock. So I went out there, on the loading dock, take it apart, bring the header in, throw some graphics on it, go back up to the loading dock, put it in. They literally got the hand truck underneath it while I'm screwing it on, and off to some arcade it would go, and they'd do some test runs on it. But I found a niche. So all these games I'm bringing in, they all needed graphics. I volunteered for everything. And it was great because I had this fantastic morgue file that I just dug stuff out of. Robots, not a problem. Throw them on the light table. And they were just going, he's pulling this out of his ass. I can't believe what he's doing here. Yeah, was sitting up till 3 in the morning like a couple of months ago. If that's what pulling it out of your ass is, then yeah, I was pulling it out of my ass. Okay. So anyway, but it was a great way to ingratiate myself into the whole situation. And then something odd happened. One day, my desk was right by the door of the art department. So pretty much anything that came and went, I was the first one to know about it. Door opens up, and this pretty blonde woman, 5'0", 80 pounds soaking wet, in a very smart gray suit, popped open a badge and said, "Customs, everybody push away from your desk." What is a customs agent doing in the art department at Valley Midway? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it, because I asked it a lot and nobody could tell me, and it wasn't until I actually was losing my job that Paul Ferris told me what that was about. Get ready. Spies, real spies, were using the hard drives of the games to smuggle in classified information and then download it once it got to the States. I didn't make that stuff up, okay?
What year?
83, 82, 83. The Reagan years. Iran-Contra. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on, and that blew my mind. And when Paul told me that, I remember laughing about it like that's a pretty nutty concept. And he goes, "Oh, they found him." Well, what? They what? Oh yeah, they found evidence of that happening. Oh, I thought you were yanking my chain, dude. Oh my God, that actually happened. That actually happened. So yeah, nutty stuff. And I found out later that the only business that hires as many spies as the espionage business is the gaming business. And to this day, that's a fact. A lot of retired spies end up working for game companies. There's a lot of spying going on. Okay, when I worked at Valley, we had a huge arcade where we had all of our games and prototype games and also the competitions games. And I remember Zaxxon showing up before Zaxxon was released. How did that happen? How did we get the competitions game in our arcade before it was released to the public? And no one seemed to be able to answer that question for me, and mostly was told stop asking it. So, and I don't know if anybody, how many of you heard that there was mob ties with Valley? Well, that is just absolutely true, completely true, all right? Yeah. I remember one time they told us that we were going to have an inspection, a walking tour, some executives coming out from Vegas. And all right, so we're all ready for the executive from Vegas. Like right out of The Godfather, man. I'm telling you, this guy, the man, pulls up in a limo. Okay, now the airport, O'Hare was so close that like you could hear the jets would rumble the building as they were landing. That's how close we were to O'Hare, and yet he had to rent a limo to go 3 minutes to the tour here, right? He gets out and he's straight out of Central Casting, man. He's the mob hit guy from every Godfather movie. He's got the bulge in the jacket and everything. You're like, you gotta be kidding me. This guy, so funny. And the whole, had to walk the whole thing, man. This is something else. And we're like, yeah, if there's any question about it, I think that tells the tale right there. So, all right. So I got the job, and I'm working on Tron, and I was just blown away because I'm working with Doug Watson, again, like who was my hero in college. And I'm working with him. I got the next desk in, and actually he's coming in next week, or I'm sorry, in a month from now to do the Pinball Expo in Schaumburg, Illinois, and he's staying at my house. We're still friends to this day. So that really worked out well. But anyway, at the time, I just met him, and we're working on Tron. And I remember what I did was I did all the color separations, and our job at Tron was Disney pretty much spoon-fed us all the artwork, but we didn't know what anything was, and they didn't tell us what anything was. It really came down to, I'm guessing this guy is the hero, right? So let's make him in the center. Okay, that seems like a good idea. Here's how little we knew about it. Look, we've been working on it for weeks, and one day somebody came in and went, Tron's his name! Oh, we were wondering. Okay. Really? We didn't even know that much about it. Nothing, okay? So they were supposed to show us the movie. That's what they told us. They said, we're going to let you preview the movie so that you can get a feel for what you're doing with the game, right? Well, we're rubbing everybody's nose in it, We're seeing the movie before it comes out, brother. Not you. So it was like a Tuesday morning, and the guy from Disney comes out, and of course there's no internet, it's 1982, so he's got to fly out from LA to Chicago with the tape, gets out. I'm guessing he was being punished for something stupid he did, because, you had to fly from LA to Chicago with a videotape, right? That's not a reward. That's not the trip you get when you're being rewarded, right? Okay, so he gets out, and he's got an attitude, and they go in the conference room, and they roll in this VCR the size of this table, because it's 1982. And he puts the tape in, and he starts rolling. And it's like 3 minutes of, everything. It's light cycles and explosion and a little pinchy things, and what the hell is that? Oh, another explosion, and it's a frisbee game. No, what is this going? No, and there was no rhyme or reason. It wasn't even a trailer. It was just clips spliced together with no, like you can see, it was just thrown together for whatever those hacks in Chicago need. Just toss some crap at them, and who cares? Shut up. Okay, so 3 minutes, it's over, and we're looking at each other like, what the F did we just see? What is that? So Doug goes, could we see it again? And without even looking up, the guy goes, no. Rewind, pulls it out, and we're idiots. We're just sitting there like, what do we do now? Puts a tape in the thing, and walks out the door, and we're still the idiots, just looking. Leave? Do we go now? What's good? So now the conference room's got windows, and I see a cam pull up, and he gets in the cab, and we're like, I'm guessing this is over. What do you think? I'm thinking it's done too, yeah. You know, we got to go back to the art department and look at everybody, you know, that we left like 3 minutes ago and told them we were going to go see the movie. You don't realize I've got to go back and walk through that gauntlet, right? Yeah, we do, yeah. So sure enough, we went back there and everybody's, oh, hey, those production times on Disney's movies seem to be not spot on. Yeah. So that was interesting, and we learned nothing from that at all. It was kind of a waste of, well, 5 minutes. But somehow we managed to throw Tron together, and it worked out okay. And I'm not responsible for the glitches, but that's another thing, and probably another panel with somebody smarter than me. So. But it turns out that I did all the color separations for Tron. And I had never done a color separation before in my entire life, and I did not want anybody to know that. So I would just kind of hover and watch other people doing color separations so I could figure out how to do it. And once I did that, I jumped in on it. And I was so ambitious, I wanted to do the best job I could. And I busted my ass on Tron. I thought I did a pretty good job. Actually, I did a pretty good job, even looking back on it. And I remember my boss, Paul Ferris, saying at the end of it, well, you know, you did a really great job on this, and boy, quite honestly, it's probably the hardest color separation you're ever going to do. And I can't believe you said that, because I'm so glad you didn't say it before I started the thing, because I would have probably cut myself before that. Oh my God, yeah, and he was right, it was one of the hardest color separations I'd ever done, and it turned out it was my first one. Thank God I didn't know any of that. Ignorance is bliss. Oh my God. So that's how I kind of cut my teeth on it. So at that point, I'm like, oh boy, I'm working on games, I'm really doing games, you know? And before I knew it, I'm working on Super Pac-Man. And kind of nobody in the department wanted to do the spin-off Pac-Man games, or any kind of spin-off games, mainly because, first of all, they'd never had a spin-off game before. You know, this is 1982. The first spin-off game in the history of ever was Ms. Pac-Man. And now you're spinning off another Pac-Man game? You gotta know, everybody in the art department, a lot of eye-rolling. Really? You shove a cape on a character and you got another game, do you? Is that how that works? Okay. I'm not going to put my time into that. Maybe let the new guy do it. There's an idea, yeah. And I'm like, I was so eager at anything. So, okay. So I did that work on Super Pac-Man. And it was great because they sent over the characters, the Super Pac-Man character and the Ghost character, by this incredible new fangled contraption called the fax. Well, in 1982, a fax was pretty impressive. It uses the phone, man! And like, pictures come through the phone. And if you're telling somebody that, well, where does it come out? Like the microphone part? I mean, no, you idiot! It comes out the paper. What paper? There's no paper with a phone. Yeah, fax. Anyway. So they faxed over the image, and I had to re-illustrate it because it was a fax, obviously. So I did that, and now all of you know that there's no Pac-Man, you know, character consolidation. There's no unified Pac-Man. I don't know why that it didn't happen, but it didn't happen. So I got these characters that somebody made, and I'm just re-illustrating them. So, hot on the heels of Super Pac-Man came Pac-Man Plus. And, I mean, literally, they just got the ink wasn't even dry on Super Pac-Man, and I'm working on Pac-Man Plus. And Pac-Man Plus needed a whole bunch of great stuff. With Super Pac-Man was just me going through the motions, you know. I'm drawing somebody else's art, I'm putting it together, the end. Pac-Man Plus, I got to do the entire alphabet. The Pac-Man alphabet. So to my knowledge, I'm the very first one to ever done a Pac-a-bet And I made the entire alphabet because we needed words like plus, exciting, and new, and all these other letters. And at that point, they were like, well, how many letters is left? What, like maybe 10? Just do the whole alphabet and do the numbers too while you're at it, So I did. And that was the very first one ever, as far as I know. So then we get to the characters. And I remember Paul Ferris, had the meeting with Paul Ferris, and he was writing something, and I said, well, what are the characters going to look like? And he didn't look up, and he goes, just make one up. Yeah, right. Just to make it. No, really. What are the characters going to be like? And he stops and he goes, really? Make one up. You want me to make up a Pac-Man character? This is the fourth game, of these characters that are really well established. They pretty much made this company, and you're just gonna say, hey, yeah, just make something up? And he goes, why not? That's what they told me. So, okay. So I made up the character that's on Pac-Man Plus. And the first version of them had little bubble gloves and like kind of Mickey Mouse thing, and man, they went out of their minds. And they were like, no, the mouse is going to sue us, they're going to destroy us, you can't have the Mickey Mouse. So I went back, redid them, and that version is known as the biker boot welding glove Pac-Man, because he looks like he has biker boots and welding gloves. And then Hanna-Barbera stole him outright and put a hat on him and made him the Saturday morning cartoon, and I never got any credit for that, so screw them too. So, yeah, that was really funny that there was no consolidated Pac-Man character, and to this day there still isn't. And it's the craziest thing ever, but that was pretty nutty. And all the spin-off games too. We know. Nobody had ever seen even one spin-off game, much less, umpteen spin-off games. And then after that one was Professor Pac-Man, which is just a fuster-cluck of its own making, unbelievable. Quickly, background of that. At that point, Bally had been just inundated with a bunch of hate mail from moms who were sure that their children's heads were being turned into mush by playing these video games, so could you do something about that? And the knee-jerk reaction was Professor Pac-Man, okay? Where you had to play a rack, and then you got 15 ludicrous questions to answer, and then you could go on to the next rack. I think they made 200 games, and that was it. You can imagine. I'm guessing nobody in here has even heard of Professor Pac.
I own a cabinet.
There you go. Thanks, but you're it, right? He's it. There you go. Yeah. So, but it's kind of funny. It's a unicorn, that's for sure. But I got really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time a lot, and that was. Even then, even the screw-ups, even the screw-ups are famous, Go figure, huh? So, okay, we got just a couple minutes. Got about 3 or 4 minutes here. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, any question?
There is one and only black and white photo that exists of Pac-Man and Chomp Chomp marquee. Did you have anything to do with that?
No,
It's
wow.
Pac-Man, Pac and Pal, it was called in Japan. There
Yeah,
was one cabinet that was made in the USA, but I guess it got scrapped. But there is a picture of a marquee that's the same size of the Mappy,
yeah.
Junior Pac-Man. That, it's that big square.
Right, the
Yeah.
square one, right, yeah. And actually, when I
can
worked
show you a
on...
photo. I mean, I have it on my phone. I can
Yeah.
show you later, but I didn't know if you had anything to do with that.
No, I'm guessing, just by the references, that's probably Pat McMahon. Everything after Professor Pac-Man was pretty much picked up by Pat McMahon. He became the Pac-Man guy after that.
Okay.
Like all his, like Baby Pac-Man and Pac-Man Jr. and the artwork on the pinball.
Yeah.
Those are all Pat McMahon.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was very established pinball artist, when they all showed up, so, he stepped in, and his his characters are just fantastic. Quite honestly, I learned so much working with Pat McMahon. He was just a phenomenal talent. Let me see if I can, okay, I got 3 minutes to tell Pat McMahon's story. It was a good one. So Pat McMahon did the artwork on Burger Time. Everybody's familiar with Burger Time, and you know the character, I can't think of his name.
Peter.
Peter, thank you. Peter Pepper, sorry. No. Mind fart, old guy. All right. Anyway, Pat had this great talent for finding these dive bars that had great food, you know? And we'd go to these places, and you're like, Pat, are we taking our lives in our hand going to this place? I mean, they look pretty sketchy, you know? No, I've been here before. You're gonna see best burger you ever had. And he was always right. Best burger, best Reuben, wherever, he knew where the best sandwiches were, you know, and if you went in there and you got, you know, a Pop behind the bar and Mom in the kitchen and the kids running the tables, you know you're gonna get some good food. You know? Okay, so this one place he found, this old beat up VFW bar that was one of those like a kind of like a garden apartment where it's like 3 steps down from the you know, and all the windows were like right up at the ceiling line. You had the weird light coming in, and there was like smoke and dust in the air lit up by these goofy beams of light. You get the picture. This place is pretty, you know, when you're walking, you hear you're sticking to the floor. Yeah. So this place, best burgers in the world. He was on it, man. He knew what. So we'd go there all the time, and had the day drinkers from the factory down the street that would show up probably 7 a.m. and they had their seats, man. You know. So now back, you see the scene where we went there all the time. Back at the studio, we were working one afternoon. And I took a break, and it was kind of our custom to walk around and look over the shoulder of everybody else and just kind of see what they were up to, and, you know, shoot the shit and you know, get everybody else's opinion. It was great because, you know, you had another set of eyes to look at it, and boy, couldn't have asked for a more, you know, educated set of eyes in the group in that group. So anyway, I go looking at Pat's stuff, and he's drawing Peter Pepper, and I went, oh, that's cool. The guy from the bar. And he goes, what? The guy that sits across from us every effing day at the bar is Peter Pepper. And he went, oh. Yes, Pat, you drew him as Peter Pepper. Did you not realize it? He did not realize that. That I thought was just hilarious. So Peter Pepper is actually the guy. Look at him now. Look at, he's got a little drinker. He got a drinker nose, little rosy cheeks. Yeah, he's a drinker. That guy. Peter Pepper's a drunk. Okay. And on that note, I'm done. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being supportive. Thank you for being fans. Like I always say about Mortal Kombat, if it didn't have any fans, it'd just be a lot of nice dragon art. So thank you very much, guys, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and here are a few more videos for you to check out.